Now, looking at the statistics of livestock production, if one looks at the northern of the veterinary cordon fence, north of the veterinary cordon fence, you see that north of the veterinary cordon fence we have more cattle, about 1.6 million, compared to south of the veterinary cordon fence with 900,000. And goats, if you look at goats, you have more goats north of the veterinary cordon fence compared to south. South of the veterinary cordon fence, what is more is basically sheep, with 84,135, yes, with 841,375,000. In terms of exports, our animal products are exported regionally. Our beef is exported mainly to South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, Angola, and DRC. Internationally, our beef is exported mainly to the USA, EU, UK, Norway, Denmark, and Hong Kong. Mutton is mainly exported to South Africa. Now, if you look at the statistics, 2019 compared to 2020, 2019 was a drought year. Even though it was a drought year, those effects were felt in 2020 because 2019 we marketed more livestock compared to 2020, but the effects were felt in 2020 where we marketed less. In 2020 there was also COVID and so on, but the effects of drought were felt in 2020. Now, in terms of crop production, grain cereal production, demands and imports, crops are produced under irrigation as well as under rain-fed conditions. The national grain consumption, we stand at about approximately 322,019 tons, which is constituted of maize with 179,838 tons, wheat with 137,337 tons, and pearl millet with 4,844 tons. The local production is approximately 82,279. I believe in terms of these statistics, NAB will provide the accurate figures later on, which is 34% of the national demand. Imported grains stands at 239,740 tons. Just to add, maize, mahangu, and wheat are controlled products, meaning borders are closed during harvesting period, which is around May to September, to allow produced under irrigation. Now, when you talk about the basket of horticulture commodities, you are talking of tomatoes, potatoes, onions, carrots, cabbage, butternuts, grapes, dates, pumpkins, lettuce, sweet melons, groundnuts, and citrus. Now, the national horticulture demand amounts to approximately 89,082 tons, and the national horticulture production is at 31,501 tons, and the imports are 57,581 tons. Now, in terms of our horticulture exports, the monetary value stands at approximately 779 billion Namibian dollars. And these are basically dates, grapes, dates to Europe and Asia, onions, tomatoes, sweet peppers to Angola and South Africa. Here we just say Namibia is a net importer of horticulture produce, which presents an opportunity. Now, in terms of agriculture and COVID-19, the year 2020, during the year 2020, the country was blessed with very good rainfalls in some areas, and exceptionally very good rainfall, high rainfall that brought hope to regions that had been really suffering due to little or no rainfall for a prolonged period. However, while we were celebrating this very good rainfall, the COVID-19 pandemic struck, and it brought many more challenges and uncertainties, which brought about inefficiencies which occurred due to lockdowns as personnel in the sector were either isolated or quarantined along the value chain. Fortunately, the agriculture sector, the value chain was one of those that was probably least affected and well positioned to weather the COVID-19 storm. This is because the sector was declared as an essential sector. Now, in terms of agriculture post-COVID-19, we have various challenges that we are facing post-COVID-19. One is the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This conflict affected the agriculture production in many ways or channels, because Namibia has seen an increased disruption in supply chains of agricultural inputs such as fertilizer, oil, and gas. And this could have long-term negative consequences for small-scale producers, particularly as they start a new planting season and face fertilizer and natural gas shortages, as well as price hikes. Ukraine is a major exporter of wheat, grains, and sunflower oil. With this reduction of food production, this basically translates into low exports and hence food insecurity, especially for most African economies. The war also imposes cost on economic production, and this has a direct impact on markets. The prices of grains, oil, seeds, and fertilizer is rising exponentially, and I believe if you know and if you have visited supermarkets where you have procured cooking oil, you have seen one day cooking oil is costing $18, $19, $20 per liter to $60 a liter. So those are basically causes of the Ukraine-Russia war. The high prices of fertilizer have limited options to farmers, and this might reduce the use of fertilizer and hence reduce the production output. But as a ministry, we also support smallholder farmers through subsidy, and my executive director has basically touched on that. In terms of lung sickness outbreak, we had a lung sickness outbreak which was really tormenting the livestock industry. This has occurred in Kavango West with 3 constituencies that were affected, Ohangwena with 2 constituencies, Oshikoto with 2, and Musati with 1. Now, 55 cattle were basically affected, and we have also experienced of marketing their livestock. Now, the ministry has put in place measures, basically the restriction of marketing and livestock gatherings. Gatherings basically is now your auctions and so on. And then we target to vaccinate the entire northern communal areas. There is restricted movement in those areas, massive awareness campaigns. We also trained staff members on surveillance, and then we have also carried out zero surveillance. Zero surveillance meaning we did surveillance on animals that are not even showing signs of illness, just to draw blood and send it to the laboratory for testing. The other issue that have really threatened food security is the outbreak of the brown locust, which has occurred in Karas and Hartap regions. It has basically affected over 3 million hectares, and the ministry has, together with stakeholders, we managed to control 1.8 million hectares. Now, in terms of the opportunities that are there in the agriculture sector, there are opportunities in terms of, we are basically, as a ministry, we are offering production subsidies for poultry, horticulture, dairy, and rain-fed crop production, and my executive director has also touched on that. And then we also have poultry. There is also opportunities in poultry production, basically eggs and meat. There is also an opportunity for seed multiplication because as a country, most of our seed is imported either from South Africa, Zambia, and so on. There is also an opportunity for supply and servicing of processing equipment, sorting, grading, and packaging equipment and material, as well as the processing of horticulture produce into fruit juices, canned fruits, vegetables, frozen vegetables, dried fruits, tomato paste, and then dairy products, canned or dried fish, poultry, pressing oil, and grinding. And I'm happy to note that the World Food Programme has also taken that on board, especially with the video that we have seen with tomatoes. Fertilizer, there is also an opportunity for us to establish a fertilizer mixing plant in the country, even though they are there. They are not sufficient. In terms of fodder production as well, that's an opportunity that is there. There's also an opportunity to establish feedlots for our cattle. Now, the challenges which the sector is facing are basically limited domestic production of key production inputs such as seeds, fertilizer, and fodder, and therefore high cost of such inputs. We are also facing challenges of pest outbreaks, which are affecting crop production. We have limited public and private sector investment in agriculture. We have limited access to markets and capital for smallholder farmers, which include women, erratic rainfall leading to drought or flood conditions, poor soil fertility for crop and animal vegetation forage production. And then we have animal disease outbreaks such as the foot and mouth disease and the lung sickness affecting livestock production and marketing in some parts of the country. And then the main challenge is also water sources which are mostly at the borders and which are shared with riparian states. Now, in terms of conclusion, I would just reiterate that agriculture is one of the key economic sectors in Namibia, and government is committed to provide an enabling environment through the creation of a clear legal framework for private sector to thrive. The public and private entities should get involved in the agriculture production in order for the country to become food self-sufficient. And this is through the public-private partnership. We are putting out the green schemes out there, and therefore that's also an opportunity for private sector as well as women to participate in some of these programs that we are coming up with as a ministry. Given the current depressed world economy as well as the shortage of government finances.
My first question, and then I just wanted to find out, I've read about Kenya, 80% of Kenya's seeds were usually done by small farmers, trading, but I come to know that there's big companies buying potential the seeding industry in Kenya. So I just wanted to find out what is the stance on it, because I know we are importing a lot of our seeds, but is it also going to, because now basically in Kenya, the small scale farmer, they can't trade seeds with time. It's only for the immediate household. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
In terms of the small stock distribution, in terms of the horticulture support program, those programs are implemented in all 14 regions. And the horticulture support program, basically, even a commercial farmer can participate in that program. Seed improvement, that one I was working up, I did not really get it clearly. However, as a ministry, what we are trying to do is, we are through the NAMSI program, which is the Namibia Agriculture Mechanization and Seed Improvement Program. What we are trying to do is, we are trying to intensify seed production, and we are capacitating seed growers, and these seed growers are farmers, including women and so on. So what we are doing is we have put out a call for registration of any type of producer who wants to produce seeds, especially in the then crop growing regions. So therefore, that call is out there. As for Kenya, in terms of their rules and regulations, I would really not comment on that, because we would definitely not follow the same rule, because most of our seed is basically imported. Of that, every resettled farmer is entitled to get between 200,000 and 500,000, basically capacitating the person to start with production.
Thank you very much. My name is Franz. Thanks for the presentation. Perhaps what I want to understand, just really the general status of food insecurity or food sufficiency in the country. For me, it's too general. What type of food do we have which is not adequate for the general populace? What type of food that do we have that you could say is excess? Because I'm trying to understand the market of our production in terms of food. And if because you are an official, you are from the ministry, you know exactly what type of item that the country needs in the market or that are in excess. Maybe just a bit of statement around that, just for me to have a bit of understanding. I don't want just the general food insecurity. It's like a blanket, two blankets. Break it down a bit. Thank you.
Yeah, in my presentation, I basically touched on crop production and horticulture production. Now, what I have indicated is that when I talk of crop production for cereal, I'm talking about maize, mahangu, and wheat. Okay. Now, in terms of maize, mahangu, and wheat, what the consumption, national consumption, is around 322,000 tons. Which is constituted by maize with 179,000 tons, wheat 137,000 tons, and pearl millet 4,844 tons. Now, in terms of the breakdown of local production is around 90,000 tons, which is about 37% of national demand, and we are importing 240,000 tons. So you can already see that gap. In terms of horticulture, we are the national demand is around 89,000 tons, and of that 89,000 tons, we are only producing approximately 31,000 tons, and then we import 57,000 tons. So that's the overall picture that I can give you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to go back to the second question that was asked again. So it's clear that we can see that there is like demand to be met, and then we also have the challenge of access to market. So I'm going to touch on it with other question. But my question is, what is supposed to be, like, what is our role? Because speaking out of experience, there was a year we planted butternuts, and we were trying to sell these butternuts. And we are registered with AMTA. We called AMTA. We told them we had this butternuts. We also went as far as actually approaching places like Stampede, Fruit and Veg, to say that, okay, we have butternuts. But we didn't have, we had no success. Actually, most of those butternuts went bad. So obviously it was a loss because we had put in so much money and we couldn't recoup it. So my question is basically, yes, we have this problem of there's a market or there's a demand to be met. And then we have producers, small farmers, small-scale farmers, for example, that have products, but they are not able to get access. So I just want to ask, if you had to give advice to me as a farmer, what would you recommend on top of contacting AMTA, because it's not doesn't really help, and also trying to speak to people that are supposed to buy from us, because I mean it's not really get their things from South Africa, and I'm showing up with my produce, and they refuse to take mine, and they continue to take from South Africa. I'm not able to somehow reduce that import that's coming from SA. Like, yeah. So basically, what are we supposed to do?
As what we do is we just start producing. Now that's a mistake we make. What you need to do is you first establish what the market wants. For example, maybe that year when you produce butternuts, the market was probably flooded with butternuts. So what needs to happen is you need to enter into agreements with several retailers, and then you produce according to what the market wants. So, and if you enter into an agreement with the retailer will tell you, I want butternuts of this size, of this quality, and so on, and I want at least 2 tons per whatever. So then you go back, you produce according to that. So that's a mistake most farmers make. They rather produce and look for a market, not to look for the market before you start producing.